Welcome to Between Two Speakers, a conversation series where we're sitting down and speaking with the creative minds behind theatrical advertising. My name is Mike Zarin. I'm a composer, producer, and founder of Sense It, where we specialize in all things music and sound design for trailers. In this series, we're sitting down with creative directors, music supervisors, editors, producers, composers, sound designers, copywriters, and the like to discuss their role and process in the creation of trailers. I'm Mike Zarin. Enjoy. Why do you think trailers, more than film editing, does lean towards marrying itself to music with the picture?
I mean, you have to convey emotion quickly, right? And I think that the music is very important in doing a thing quickly. Uh, you don't have time to build up a character or sorry, you don't have time to build up a character over a half hour and give people all that. You've got to get people to lock into something and pay attention to something. And hearing a riff from a song that you already know gets your brain engaged quickly, right?
Mhm.
And so you want people, and then as it builds, those builds have to happen quickly as well. So you need people to like not only lock in quickly, but stay with you through the ride. And so I think like we have to have something, and sometimes that's like interesting sound design and being very minimal, and that can work. But man, music is a driving thing where it's
Mhm.
like if there's a song that you really like and it's attached to a trailer, you're in
Mhm.
for the ride, and you'll sit there and maybe just listen, and pay attention just for the song, and by the end of it, you've gotten a sense we've been able to pitch you our movie as well. So I think
Mhm.
in that regard, it's I me personally, I I I have a hard time cutting without music. Like it really is a struggle for me. I helped a friend out with a short years ago, and I was trying to put scenes together,
Mhm.
and I'm like, well, let me find the music for this scene first, and that was for an actual movie, and it was just like I needed that emotion, to help me figure out scenes as I went. So that's I think why the music is so important.
So I was wondering if you could talk about when you work on something that's like more of a thriller or even horror, how you sort of use music to bridge that divide in the same way you were talking about, a drama where it's all about the character. You got to buy into that character, and music is what can help us get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't do a lot of horror myself, but
Mhm.
one of my all-time favorite trailers is the original Alien trailer. I don't know if
Right.
you've ever seen that, but I think that trailer still holds up today. I mean, how old is that movie and that trailer? And it still holds up. You could play that in a theater right now, and people would be interested in that. And
Mhm.
that is, a real interesting piece of sound design. And I think sometimes even with like thriller and horror marketing, uh, less is more. You
Mhm.
know, uh, uh, the the with any kind of horror movie, sometimes the early M Night Shyamalan stuff where you don't show people, the bad guy. You don't show people the evil. Sometimes that's more effective.
Yeah.
So it's tension, right? And
Mhm.
building tension, to me, especially in this short form, you can only do that through music, right?
Mhm.
It's a rise of strings. It's a tension building sound that
Mhm.
just you can offset people's feelings with a really weird sound. One of my all-time favorite scores is the score for Cabin Fever, and that is just like all these weird strings. The composer just
Mhm.
went to a cabin with a whole bunch of weird stringed instruments and just started like making weird sounds and stuff. And it's very off-putting. It's very offsetting. It just takes you out of your comfort zone. And
Right.
it's not a melody, right? But it is
Mm-hmm.
music, and it's musical instruments. And that sort of a thing can really kind of put people into a weird space and into an intense space very
Yeah,
quickly.
that's
So
a
I
good
think that
point.
really
Yeah.
helps.
Do you think that's
Let's-
still kind of the most important thing today as an editor, is to create something that immediately sticks out and doesn't feel like it feels new and fresh and kind of defies your expectations?
Um, there's a time and a place for that, right? If you're working on an animated movie, you are, there's a little bit more marketing involved, I think, with that.
Sure.
But having said that, the Lightyear trailer that just came out is a great example of, again, music and really just, setting up a little bit more of an important kind of trend-setting thing with that marriage of music. So, is it always going to be that? Not necessarily. At the end of the day, we're also, we're trying to sell movie tickets. So there is a balance, I think. But I think if you're not trying to invent, if you're not trying to do something a little bit different every time, then you're falling behind. Like I think, I always tell the younger editors when they come in, when I'm working on a project, if I have the time, if I'm given the time, I'll try and go in and find new sound design, new hits, new whooshes, and that's stuff that we use every single day, right? But I'll go in and I'll try and find, 4 or 5 new ones that I've never used before. And that's a very subtle thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of my wishes and hits don't sound the same as the last trailer, especially when you're working with the same clients day in and day out. I think that can really help, keep things fresh, keep things new, keep things interesting. It keeps your mind moving forward rather than just sticking with the same thing every single time.
I feel like you have really, as an editor, you've really excelled when dealing with sort of smaller movies. Not that these movies are actually that small, but compared to an Avengers or, a Marvel movie, yeah, they are. And their original IPs, like I think of like Phantom Thread, which you worked on, Inherent Vice, Wolf of Wall Street. Um, I was wondering if you could talk about why you feel like you have kind of like made a name for yourself dealing with the quote unquote more challenging ask of getting an audience to buy into a movie or even a trailer for 2.5 minutes, where the IP is something that no one's ever heard of. And yeah, if you could talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, some of those that you listed, right? Working with Paul Thomas Anderson on some of his movies. That's a person, a director that wants to do that himself with his own movies and
Right.
wants to challenge and do interesting things. So they're looking for that for their own.
Yeah.
You have a little more freedom because that's what he wants from his trailers. He's giving you the space to do that. Wolf of Wall Street, was with Scorsese's the same thing. I've done stuff with Zack Snyder too, and Zack is very much involved in the marketing. And so, those spaces where directors kind of open the door to let you do more interesting things. I think that's a big part of it. Look, we all, everyone in the industry wants to do the wild, crazy, creative, right? We always want to do the big, interesting thing. Sometimes it's just not the right thing to do for the movie. You know what I mean? All from the junior editors all the way up to the top executives at the studios. Everybody wants to do that, but that may not be the right thing to do for your particular movie. So there's
Right.
just times and spaces where that can happen. And what have I done? I don't know. I've been lucky enough to be in front of some, be on some of those projects with people who are willing to take some chances on some things. But I think, at the same time, like that is like we talked about a little earlier, it's trying to be conscious of trying to do something a little bit new and a little bit different, and taking chances with a few moments here and there in your trailer that may not be, you never know what someone's gonna latch onto and be okay with. So, me, I'm I always joke that I'm the home run hitter. I strike out way more than I get a hit, but when I get a hit, I hit it pretty far.
The
So
ball
Yeah.
goes far.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I can relate to that, Joel. I hit a lot of home runs, but I have so many more strikeouts.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. So
so many more. So
there's
many.
a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor, right? I have
Yeah.
missed a whole lot in my career.
Yes.
I had a question. You brought up Wolf of Wall Street, and I remember I was working with you whenever you and Michelle cut that teaser, and I remember that project was very much about the music and very much about the cue. So I was wondering if you could talk about that story. I think that would be like a home run with our audience.
Yeah, that's actually a really fun story because um, we were on a really fast turnaround on that project, and we had to work the weekend to get something to the studio by Monday. And we had kind of started down a path, and I had a cut of that was much darker,
Hmm.
a much darker musical tone. Just kind of like going, okay, what does Scorsese do, and what does he do? What are people looking for
Hmm.
Scorsese? Um, and we got some feedback from Eric Counter over the weekend where he was like, no, not dark. Like, and this, I think Josh was also a part of that conversation of, no, we don't want dark. We want this to be a lot more fun.
Hmm.
And it was like, oh, okay. And Michelle had recorded Saturday Night Live on Saturday night, was watching it Sunday morning, and Kanye performed Black Skinhead that night. And she was like, that's the song. That's the song for this trailer. So she sent it to Eric, and Eric was like, oh yeah, this will be great. So we pivoted halfway through the weekend. I had a structure in place, but not the right music. And we put that music in, and Eric showed it around, and everybody went crazy for it. And they got it in front of Scorsese pretty early, and he was on board with it as well, super, super early. And that's a really good example too of like how much of a shift you can do with just music.
When you're looking for lyrics, what's your process? Are you just jogging your memory? Are you searching Spotify? Are you Googling a lyric that you might want to look for? Do you work with a music supervision team? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's always a team effort, and having a good music staff where you're at is huge. And I've been lucky to work with a lot of really great music supervisors over the years who have given me really great tracks. Uh, we when I was at Ant Farm with you, Josh, we worked on a movie called The Words with Bradley Cooper in it,
Hmm.
and we were kind of working on that one and trying to figure out the music for that. And Patrick Buchanan, who was the music supervisor at the time, had been sent an EP from an unknown band. And he came in and he was like, guys, I was in the car this morning. I heard this song. This is a really great song for this movie. And it was Imagine Dragons and the song Demons. And no one had ever heard of them. And he was like, this is a really great song. And we were like, oh wow, this is a really great song, and that finished in that trailer. So it's always a marriage of those two things.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. Do you feel like editing trailers now in this age of streaming and, you know, proliferation of people watching trailers on YouTube, you think it's a different art than it used to be whenever it was purely a theatrical medium?
Um, to a certain extent, yes, because your primary reach, 20 years ago was theatrical, people at the theater. And to that end, it was a whole lot easier to do a misdirect, you
Hmm.
know, where the first time the majority of people were seeing things was in the theater. So if you start out on some, if it's a horror movie and you're making it look like this sweet little teenager, indie movie, and then all of a sudden it turns into a horror movie, it's way easier to do those misdirects if people are just sitting in a theater and being given things. Now it's like exactly the majority of our audience comes from somebody clicking on a link or seeing a link on social media. You already know what the movie is. So I think in that regard, there's definitely a shift with that. Also, just there's shorter attention spans. There's so much more media and content, not just trailers, but just in general, right?
Hmm.
TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and all those sorts of things. The way that you are trying to engage viewers and people to get them to stick with your marketing is completely different. When I
Hmm.
first started out, it was like every single trailer, start with a wide shot. Give me a big wide shot, big scopy thing, that sort of a thing. And ease me into the trailer, ease me into storytelling. Well, now it's like when people are just flipping, through TikTok or through Instagram or whatever, and there's a lot of noise in the space, like we have to grab your attention
Got to
quickly.
stick out.
You've got 5 or 10 seconds to get
Yeah.
somebody to engage in it. So easing somebody into the story doesn't work. We need something very grabby. You need a star's face very early, something to get people to go, let me keep watching this. So in that regard, like how you're kind of attacking how you present to the audience and kind of what the format is, I think that's definitely shifted.
And throughout the years, is there a trend, a musical trend within theatrical advertising that gravitates you most, that you like the best, or
Oh,
or conversely dislike?
well, we had our dubstep phase. And we all went through that as
That we did.
a whole
That we did.
society, and we've moved on, and we've grown, and we've learned from that. So
We've
I don't
learned.
know, but that's the thing, though. It's is there one that I liked or disliked? I don't know. Like it again, you have to be pushing forward. We can't keep doing the same things. And I think that to that end, that's one of the reasons why dubstep stood out, especially in marketing, is we hadn't heard that kind of a thing. So for like an action movie to have, that big distorted, dance style to it, it stood out in a big, big way, and made stuff feel new and interesting and fresh. So you're always pushing for that. You're always pushing for the
Mhm.
new thing. And thankfully the music industry is as well. And so it kind of goes hand in hand, with what they're doing and with what we're doing and what people are vibing with at the time. So
I got one more question for you, Joel, which is a question we end every interview with. Uh, gun to your head, what do you think the single greatest needle drop in the history of movie trailers is?
oh man, there's a lot. I mean, like when my brain starts cataloging Dan Meisner's Social Network trailer,
Yeah.
it's just what a great find, and
Yeah.
so memorable,
Mhm.
and just a perfect piece of music, and unexpected, and really, again, I think the greatest trailers are the ones that evoke an emotional response as well
Right.
as the movie, and that trailer did that.
That concludes this installment of Between Two Speakers. I hope you like what you heard, and if you did, please subscribe so you can stay tuned for all the new content that we come out with in the future. If you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions, you want to hear from somebody, hear about something, you've been curious about something, please drop it in the comments. We'd be happy to talk about it, bring it up on another episode with someone else. Thank you for your time. See you next time.